I'm Rod.
I'm Josh.
This is Josh.
Josh! What?
Part of the Slashing Cast podcast network.
Oh, hey.
And I'm never going to forgive Josh for what he did to me this week. I'm going to, on my deathbed, going to be like, damn you, Josh! No, I'm just kidding, but what's up, buddy?
Just get the shit bucket ready, man. This movie is going to not like us if they ever hear this episode, because I usually am very nice, or not even nice, but like I'll hold back a little bit because I understand how hard it is to make a movie, especially an indie movie. This one didn't look like it gave a shit about anybody's feelings or how to actually make a good movie. So fuck this movie. Yeah. Let's fucking tear it a new one.
I mean, this is, we'll get into it in a second, but this movie has like everything it's tasteless. It has bad jokes. Yep. It has I messaged you during the movie. I was whatsoever. Like, this line happened, and you're like, what? And then I wake up the next morning and I hear I get the fuck this movie from Josh, and I'm like, oh my god. Yeah.
I'm watching it.
How's your week been?
I'm watching it, and like Kissy's sitting next to me, and she's like, but are they meaning it to be funny? And I'm like, no, they're not at all. Like, this is just bad upon bad upon bad.
Yeah. It's literally one of the worst acting movies. The only movie I can compare acting wise levels of bad with this movie is Trolls 2. I literally can't think.
It transcends everything, and
I know
becomes something better.
Because it's laughable. This movie is Trolls 2 level bad, but
it's not laughable at all.
It's not. You can't laugh at it. Okay, let's get over and let's talk about happy rainbows and puppies and shit before.
Yeah.
Today's Gizmo's birthday, so he's been running around my house in a unicorn costume all day. So there's that, and I sang happy birthday to him. You can see that on my Twitter. So if you want magical French bulldogs that will bring you happiness, that is where you could go. I managed to track down a PS5 last week, and so that came in.
And happy birthday, Gizmo.
On Sunday. Yeah. He's a cool little dude. He's 3 years old today. So I've been fooling around with the PS5 and trying to get that
Do you have
going.
any like good PS5 worthy games on it yet, or is it just like a really expensive like computer that doesn't have
I have
anything?
Demon Souls that I am very excited to play with, and I'm like and Josh is taking off his clothes. Josh, this is you were already better than the stripper in this movie, but no.
He was my favorite part of this movie, to be honest. He was hilarious. He came in at the perfect time, and he's smacking his ass, and then he sees the dead girl that he's like grinding. Oh crap! And he runs away. Like that was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. So Demon Souls. Like I've played Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, and I've been playing Sekiro not very well for a long time. So this is like the one Souls game from Software I haven't played. So I'm excited. And before we got on this call, I was trying to get my PS5 to work on my capture card, and it was lagging, and I'm just like, oh
really?
God. So I don't know if I was going to try to do it tomorrow, and I don't know if I'm going to be ready to do it tomorrow because I got to work and yada, yada, yada. How about you? How's your week, my dude?
It's good, man. I've been biking a fucking ton, and then I biked over to my parents' house just because I didn't want to go the normal route the other way. And then I got there, and they're like, oh, we have this like road bike that's been sitting, like I've been actively looking for a road bike. And they're like, well, we just have this one that's been sitting at the side of our house for 5 years. And I was like, what? Like, what the hell? So now I have a new road bike that I just fixed up today and took for its first ride. And it's fantastic, man.
It looks very mint colored. Is it very mint colored?
Yeah, it's super vintage. It's got like a maple leaf on it. It's from like the 70s, like, and it's got like Olympic like logo on it. So it was like for the Olympics in the 70s or something. It's so vintage, and like exactly what I wanted for a road bike, because you see the like really nice new ones, but then you always see like a really old vintage one on the bike paths right behind it, and I'm like, that one's way cooler to me. Like, I don't know, the aesthetic of those really really old ones, it looks awesome, man. I'm having fun.
Yeah, that I saw the bike, and my mom had always, when I was growing up, had a bike that was similar looking like that, and like in our garage. I don't think she ever used the fucking thing, but like it was blue with those handles that bars that like pull back on you. But yeah,
it's so you're like pretty much laying down forward when you're riding it. Super aerodynamic.
So Colorado people are crazy with biking, and it actually, there used to be a bunch of people who biked on the road that my work is located on, which, by the way, is not a highway, but it is 45 miles an hour and 55 miles an hour, which means everyone who drives on it goes 75 or 80 miles an hour.
So not good for bikes.
Oh no! And 4 or 5 years ago, two guys were riding their bikes on the side of the road, and one of them hit a rock, and his bike swerved in front of a traffic car, and
the worst kind.
Then it took me a long time. It took me a long time to get into work because they were scraping this biker off the road for the next like 2 or 3 hours, and so that it was. I was like, bikers in Colorado are very weird because they act like they own the road, and I'm like, yeah, but if we're doing a physics contest, that car is always going to win this battle.
Oh,
the car is. There's a joke on Rick and Morty on one of the episodes where they go in and they're watching cable in the hospital, and they're intergalactic or interdimensional cable, and it's like man versus car, and they're like, well, he's sitting there going, and then the car just runs him over and just like splats him, and you're like, yeah, because that's what would happen, because that's what a car versus a person would do, and which is why it's ridiculous, but it is what it is.
I just stick to the bike paths for the most part. Like, I do have a road bike, but we have so many bike paths in Calgary that it's like set up for, well, and a lot of people use it all the time. So it's really busy now that the weather is insanely hot. And I'm looking here at this like OnlyFans thing that you sent me for Benny, and I almost picked that. But then I was like, oh, wait, Slashlorette Party has a really cool poster. And I like to judge a book or a movie by its poster, because if it's got a good poster, at least they had good art direction or someone after the fact. Because in the case of hair stylists, they had like a not so good poster right off the bat. But then there's been so many awesome fans of the movie that they've had like some of the best like posters after the fact that I've seen for a movie, and I'm like, man, that movie deserves to have the poster it has now for sure. And like, this movie 100% does not deserve the fucking poster that it has. It is putting you in the complete wrong direction, and Benny looks good, and I've heard good things about it, and the OnlyFans thing just goes to show that the marketing team behind it knows the audience, knows the type of comedy that it is, and it's perfect. So I'm excited to check that one out in the future, but fucking, we got to go through this shit show and talk about Slashlorette Party.
Oh man! So you didn't get to see Spiral yet, right?
Which one?
Spiral, the new Saw movie that came out on Friday.
It's we're in lockdown and all the cinemas are still closed, and it's only in theaters. So like, they're like, hey, Canada, fuck you. I'm like, what the hell, man? Just put it out on demand for, like, you could have potentially. I don't understand, because the big movies that did put themselves out in theaters and on demand at the same time, Godzilla, still made fucking tons of money. Do it the same for Spiral. I would have fucking went out of my way to see that on demand or whatever, right? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
The problem is that the theaters lose their goddamn minds, because no, you're taking money when you're from. It's like, you guys are already like, it's all you do is charge ridiculous amounts of money for tickets, and then ridiculous amount of money for food, and ridiculous. It's like,
your monopoly is over, guys. I'm sorry to say, but they've already signed a new contract moving forward. Like, the window for exclusive like being in theaters and stuff is like the window's
it's like 6 weeks,
so much smaller now than it used to be.
And 6 weeks, I think.
And it should have been that or less, to be honest, in my eyes, regardless.
Yeah.
Like maybe not the blockbusters because those are big ticket, right? But like these ones, like Spiral and stuff, they should have a narrower window regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I can't believe like
whatever's going to help the movie get an audience. Like that's it. That's all I care about. If a movie has a better chance of finding the right eyes for that genre or that film, who like if they know the audience and they're not getting the potential full audience that they were going to get, then someone's fucking holding it back.
Yeah. It's interesting because the whole last year and a half has happened, and I feel like these mega corporations have decided that they were going back, just automatically trying to go back to the way things were before, even though I think like, I mean, maybe Godzilla made tons of fucking money. Yeah. And it's just like,
and that was the eye opener even to the studios again. They're like, oh shit, maybe we
and that
fucked up.
And that's not even taking in how much money they were making of people signing up for HBO Max or whatever, right? The HBO Max thing is still weird though, because it's like they're all tied in with Verizon and like.
Well, it's because they're all owned by one conglomerate, anyways. Just like Disney owns fucking like half of like the other properties out there as well, and I'm surprised that AMC owns Shudder. Like that is like very surprising to me. I was like looking into like more. Because I'm very impressed. But actually, now that I think of it, like AMC has always been more horror-driven, like TV channel more than anyone else. So they have a group of people there that really cares for the genre, and I like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird because you sit there and you're going, this. It's probably just because they have that. They're one of the first like channels to have their own on-demand thing, right? The AMC's had theirs for a while, and so it's interesting to see because then they own Shudder, and I think Amazon owns all of them or some deal or part. I don't know, but
oh really?
Yeah, this stuff needs. Yeah, I think so. But all this stuff needs to update, and it all needs to be like addressed, and that's what this last year and a half has shown us. But I mean, shit. You think about it, man. We've literally. Besides lockdown, Marvel delayed every single movie last year, right? We haven't had a Marvel movie in theaters since Endgame, a Marvel Studios movie. Spider-Man came out after.
But they did do the Disney Plus thing and pivoted very strongly with the two properties that they came. Like those are really well received, and I love them both. So,
and Loki's coming out here soon, so that will be interesting. But yeah, it's that weird like. You have to like adapt to survive, man, and that's like a thing that this whole like I don't know, man. I don't know when the whole world is gonna go completely back to normal, but like I've seen like wrestling companies are starting to go back on the like tours. I've seen bands with tour dates going out like for us, and it's just like it'll be interesting. I saw like In This Moment is coming around, and they're going to some tiny ass theater in Denver that I've never even heard of.
But it's
just like stuff like
way
that.
It's way different in America. Like in Alberta, we are so fucked still. Like we are in complete lockdown. We're not allowed to leave the province. Like not even to drive over to the next province over. Like there's full on like police barricades, and if you don't have like papers that say that you live there, you get massive tickets and sent home.
Damn.
Yeah,
man.
it's fucked up.
Yeah, it's I think Americans especially don't realize because like they're just in their own bubble, right? They're in their American bubbles. But my community, like on Twitch and like the people I know, or I know lots of Europeans. I know people. My buddy Greg lives in Brazil. Like it's Canadians. It's like people all over the world, and they're all like, fuck you Americans, because it's everywhere else is so much harder to get vaccines, and the fucking morons that live here that are like, no, I'm gonna get 5G injected in me, and it's just like, it's so insane. And it's like man, so
I'm hoping
it's man.
Well, they say they're getting more, but like they're running out super quick in Alberta.
Well, while we have Americans, I don't know if you've seen it, like going out and posting that, putting magnets on their arms and saying that's where the microchip is that they installed with them. And I'm like,
it's because your blood just pooled there.
Yeah. Jesus. It's so stupid. Okay, I think we've avoided this as long as possible. Josh, we are talking about I guess it's technically a movie from 2020. It's called Slashlorette Party. Okay, this is the next thing that will tell you how Josh, I've never heard him say anything bad about a movie that was like less than 90 minutes. This movie is 70 or 88 minutes long.
It was too long.
It's 78. Yeah, 78 minutes long. And it's called Slashlorette Party. And wow, what a disaster of a film. What a disaster of a film. So Josh, do you want to read the recap of this movie? The synopsis.
Okay. An anxious young woman is taken by her friends to a remote cabin in the woods to celebrate her bachelorette party. The fun and games are cut short when an uninvited guest begins killing off the wedding party one by one, including the fucking audience.
Yep. I actually think that if one of those people would have come through and like murdered me during this movie, it would probably been preferential to watching the rest of it. I like
the poster is so good. Like it is really fucking good. Who did they get to do the poster? Because I gotta high five that guy. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Whoever did this poster, the real poster that's on like IMDb this is one of the better slasher posters I've seen in a long time. I mean, like this is like
all the women in it are very good looking women, but like that is the only redeemable thing this movie has going for it. Like they had, and a lot of them had really good tattoos as well. Like really good tattoos. I always look at that like, type of stuff. And
oh yeah, dude, it was. These girls all looked like Suicide Girls. 100%. Like they're like that quality of tattoos, and they're all like pretty girls, man. And it's just like, but this movie is, I think calling it an exploitation film might be like too nice of a term for it, because this movie had, and we're gonna ruin this because you don't go watch this shit show of a movie anywhere. This movie has. Like
I give it 0.5 writing out of 6. Wise 0.5 out of 6, and the 0.5 is because of the poster, and you know boobs are nice, but
yeah, well dude, and that's even funny. It's like they have like strippers in this movie, and the strippers who are like just grinding on people, and then they basically get killed, and with some of the worst murder.
Oh, I have that. I have that machete scenes from Halloween. The exact machete they use, like the plastic machete that they use. And it is very, very overly plastic. And they don't.
Oh, dude. I was sitting there because it was. Do you ever have like if you've never gotten like a toy plastic machete and like played with it for like Halloween or something, they are about 2 or 3 times thicker than a regular machete. Like it's obvious that they're plastic, and they're not shiny. They're just that plastic look, and it is sitting there, and they're carrying this around. I'm like, oh, they slammed it into this. I think it was one of the women's head, and you're like, and then he's like trying to pull it out, and I'm like, but you can see that was the cheap plastic thing, and I'm like, and this movie, it can't even describe, because it starts off with this, which. The opening of this scene of this movie might be the best, like, oh, okay, this is okay. It opens up with this nightmare scene where this woman is like walking into a church to her fiance, like they're getting married, and he stabs her, and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, like. And first off, let's be real. This guy looks like the angry video game nerd, like but Canadian, and like
he was the fucking worst. Like if there's a bigger cringe character that just like I was cringing so hard at every word that was coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, it was misogynistic. It was assholey. It was like like the whole like 50s like I'm gonna control you kind of thing. It's just like he calls the main character a chipmunk brain at some point, and I'm just like, God. And of course this is a dream sequence, and then this is the next cheaply used ploy from horror. We have the main character who's a pretty redhead, and she's in the like from this opening scene, and she's sitting there with this therapist who
in a
is,
like hotel like that they like rented for the day for the scene, and it's like, why would a therapist be using a hotel for like this? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, it was obviously this place was like there's a couple things that were obvious. One, they had whoever was shooting this their house.
Yes.
And they had a house in the middle of the woods that they rented or whatever, or I assume somebody they knew owned this house, because
you could tell just from like all their tattoos and the way they looked that they were all just friends. Like they're all within the same circle. They didn't have to put out a casting call. It was like, oh, get Amy to do it, and then get like there's no one named Amy probably, but who knows?
I don't know about the guys though. The guys weren't all covered in tattoos like the girls. So I'm wondering if they're like they knew them or something like that. But the one blonde girl who was like the bachelor, like
my God, she was the worst actress,
the maid of honor. Yeah, she would say like 3/4 of her line and then pause and then like finish her line, and I'm like, if you get, my eyes are popping out of my head because I'm like I literally was less than 5 minutes in when I messaged Josh on Discord. I'm like, the acting in this movie is unbelievably bad.
It's atrocious.
Like
atrocious.
Yeah.
But
so
you look at like usually with indie movies, you can tell the competence of the filmmakers behind it by the camera movement, the lighting, and the acting in front of the camera. There was no 3-point shooting whatsoever. It was one shot for every scene. The camera just moved whatever. There was no like no rhyme or reason to it. There was always way too low of an angle for no reason. Like he was holding a Panasonic by that top handle and was like, this is more comfortable for my arm, so I'm going to be down here. Why? No. Fuck.
And the camera wasn't even high quality.
No, it was.
The camera was this movie came out in 2020, like we said. This camera was like the same camera they shot Versus with, like we were talking about, like from 2000. Like the camera quality, I mean, the camera quality wasn't like VHS bad, but it was like, it wasn't up to standards of any other movie we've ever, like it was the lowest quality camera we've watched in any movie we've watched.
See, usually
which is saying a lot.
With an indie film, I especially if it's a good indie film, I love to high five the filmmaker in some way by like, getting it out there for them and advertising as much as I can and making sure that anyone that does follow the show or anything else that I do knows that movie is something like I did for Psycho Goreman, and I still do. Anyone I meet, they're, hey, I don't know you. Have you seen Psycho Goreman? What the fuck are you talking about? I don't care. Watch that fucking movie, because that's how much I love it.
By the way, Psycho Goreman will be on Shudder
this week.
The day we're releasing this episode.
Yes.
It's tomorrow.
So everyone watch
Psycho,
it.
Yes, watch Psycho Goreman if you're listening to this, because Psycho Goreman.
But what I'm getting at is, I usually am like, oh, if the filmmaker or they see the show, it's a good thing, and like they're usually like, and they high five back. This is the first time where it's like, I hope no one from the movie hears how much we hate this, because it's gonna. I don't want to. I know how much work and time goes into these things, and I do appreciate that they did spend some time on this and it was a thing, and I'm a filmmaker that has empathy, but fuck, learn how to make a movie before you make a movie next time, please.
And
I don't want to discourage them at all, because they're still doing a thing. Just do your research first and like watch a few I don't know, better directed films.
I have to ask, do you think that every scene in this movie was shot in a single take? Because I feel like there is not much of a chance that
100% did more than I saw the voiceover work, because they would do more than one take, but they didn't have another camera, or they didn't do another angle to get coverage. So there was a bunch of scenes where the audio wasn't matching with the mouths, because they were using the audio from the second shot to put it together with the first one. So they did. I noticed it 4 or 5 different times where the mouth didn't, and I know what they were doing because I've had to do it before, but I always have coverage of the back of someone's head. And that's when I know how mouths are moving with that. And you see it in like big Hollywood movies. Oh, they switched to the back of his head because his dialogue was better in the second take, or his deliverance of the line was better in the second take. And but they never had enough coverage, so you could see the mouth not matching up with the audio. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this just is another level of bad.
You have this opening dream sequence, which is okay. It's got this real, when they do, if you don't watch this movie, but like they do that, like, it's where it's like kind of they use like blue light to make it look like nighttime, right, in this church, and that's probably the best shot scene in the whole movie. But I don't know. So this girl wakes up and she's in this therapy session with this woman who is obviously fucking nuts from the get-go, but and she's telling her all this stuff, and this girl has anxiety about getting married.
I don't understand why her character, the therapist, she's surrounded by light, but somehow her face is always not lit whatsoever. I don't understand how only her, like everyone else is like overlit by the light that is like just destroying the whole shot. But the therapist is always just like, where's her face? It's just add one key light. One. Yeah. I'm all about lighting and the direct like photography, and there was none. There was no attention to that.
It was like someone decided it was like, we have like, there's like 20 of us in this friend group, and they're all hot, like tattooed girls. We can make a slasher film. And they were like, okay, we could do that but
they've come together and made a few other ones as well, apparently.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, like Streets of Vengeance has the exact same therapist in it from 2016. And yeah, it looks like the same blonde girl as well. So I think they do. But this looks like they've used lights and stuff. Why was there no lights in this movie?
I don't know, man, because they thought it was like a slasher, and you were like in the dark. As I poke myself in my eyes as I rub my face, because this movie makes me sad. So the therapist basically tells this girl who's like gonna get married, like, write a note about everything you don't like about this guy, and you like talk to him about it, because she doesn't know she wants to get married at this point. So this girl goes home and writes this letter, and she goes, her bachelorette, her bridesmaid comes over, and she's like, no. She's like, I wrote this letter basically saying I hate this dude and I want to break up with him. And this is where quite possibly the dumbest logic in everything that happens in this movie. And that's saying a lot. So these girls come over and they're like, we're going to go kidnap you for your bachelorette party. Okay. Next thing. I'm curious with this. They said your wedding's in 3 days. Weddings, cut me off if I'm wrong here, are usually on a Saturday. That means they're doing this on like a Wednesday, like or Thursday, like depending on
these things and put it into context, because they're
but they're like, we're gonna have our party, and they're like, and we're gonna have our bachelor party at the exact same house.
I don't understand why all the friends are like, they see how terrible he is to her and misogynistic and like abusive, and it's like, no, you have to marry him. It's like, but I want what's best for me, but I already planned this.
Except for the hot girl who is in love with her that we figure out later on, who's like,
that's a better situation for her anyways, go in that direction.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you meet like you meet her shitty boyfriend he says the meanest shit about this woman like the whole time, and he's like, if you embarrass me, it's just like, oh my god. Like the dude isn't like, he's like a dork in this movie. He's like a nerd. He like wears a pocket protector, and he's like down talking this girl, and it's like, oh god, he's so it's just like, he's the worst character. Like you said, he's like cringy as fuck.
Like I couldn't stand every word that was coming out of his mouth, and then he was like spitting at the guy at one point. I was just like, that is just, ugh, come on, dude.
Yeah,
you're the fucking worst.
It was like, it's like, it kind of reminds me of like a way worse version of that blonde dude from the Jason X or the Friday the 13th remake. Yeah. You know, who's the guy who's fucking. He's like,
and he's like,
tits are stupendous. Yeah, like it's like that guy. It's like they were trying to make a shallow character, and they couldn't even, like, they fucked up making a shallow character, because like if you're gonna make a shallow character like that, have him be like a hunk. You want a good looking dude, right? Like who's like. Because it makes it a little more believable, but you have a 5'5" dweeb who's gonna sit there and talk to this girl, and you're just like, oh my god,
his best man, you will fall in line, or something like that.
Yeah, like, something like that. And you're like, oh my god,
like, how? Oh, and he had the worst haircut I've ever seen in my fucking life too.
Yeah. So they all go to this house, and
it was a COVID cut for sure.
Yeah, it was a COVID cut for sure. And they all go to this house, and they're like you had figured out at some point that this girl hasn't slept with this guy in like over a month. She tells the therapist or tells her friends or something like that, and you're like, oh, because that's a good sign. You're going to get married to a woman who doesn't like sleep with you. And then the guy starts getting rapey like right after they get there. He's like, you're gonna do this, or I'm gonna like, I wouldn't cheat on you, but you're making me go cheat on you. And it's like, oh my god, other guys will go and it's just like, oh,
and
it's
apparently he already is anyway, so
yeah, because he was banging one of the bridesmaids. Yeah. That was the one who got the machete in the forehead, I think, right. Actually. Yeah, and so this all happens, and for some reason this redhead has brought this note she wrote about all the things she hates about this douchebag, and then she just like leaves it on her bed. And this guy gets it, and he like reads it, and then he's like running around the house like just like being an asshole the rest of the movie because of it. And it's so cringy. Like you said, it's so cringy. The dialogue, there's not a single line of dialogue in this movie that you go, that was a well executed line of dialogue. Yeah. Which is
especially where it gets to the actual like reason why they're doing it, and I'm like, that is what this whole movie, like, we'll get there, but like I was just like, every decision every character was making made zero sense regardless. And then the whole reason why everything was actually happening made even less fucking sense than anything else. There's absolutely, okay, other than the eye candy, which this movie does have, that is the only thing this movie has.
Yeah, that one point, one of the girl and the guy are having this fight, and then the girl runs off into the woods like a crazy person, and so they're like, oh, we gotta go find her. And so they break up, and four people go out. It's like a guy, girl, and a guy and a girl, and they all go out looking.
I think this is their attempt at an Evil Dead tree scene, and it just didn't happen at all. Yeah. Like,
I think probably the most memorable scene of this whole movie is, and this is how sad this is. There's this fat guy with a video camera who's like keeps making jokes about recording porn, and
she had a good death. I liked her. Yeah, that was the only one that I was like, oh, whoa, that was actually good. Like through the stomach, the gag was good.
Yeah. This is the best scene in the movie. She bends over in front of the fat dude, and you see her ass through her short. She's got shorts on, and you're like, oh, she's got a nice ass. I like that. And then everything's downhill from there. But no, so these two get killed by, you don't see anything besides like a machete. And then
what
the main character.
No, like, okay, she dies good. She was good butt, and it was all out of her shorts and stuff. Good, perfect gag. I thought this was setting up the rest of the gags in the movie to be that level of good. And then the guy holding the camera, the big guy, like stumbles on his line for like 30 seconds before he says it, and then says and dies with like the fake arm, which I thought that was funny, and like I thought they were gonna mix good gags with funny gags, but no, they just it was a mixed bag of like, this is what we got, woo, and it was literally all downhill from there.
Yeah, it is. This guy, he gets his hand cut off, and it's like, it's kind of like that. We talked about it when we talked about Versus a little while ago, where it was like all the plastic body parts all over the woods, and you're just like laughing because you could tell, and you just, like, because everything around it's so cool, you don't care. This movie doesn't get that.
No, because nothing was cool. It's like Versus had good lines and good, it was story. So much story for no budget, and and it was long, but like didn't feel long because you had a huge meal of a movie when it was done, and it was so like it was a spectacle. I was like, wow. After I watched that, like, I cannot believe they accomplished that. Like, holy shit, that was really good. This, it was like, why the fuck did they accomplish this? Like, please don't.
Yeah, I feel like even like the editing, we were talking about the sound, and like the editing of this is terrible. It's nothing that like
they had no mic guy, because some people were like really fucking loud, and like the people beside them would be like, oh yeah, bro. Like, move the mic, man, move the mic.
Yeah. So we find the main character fucking herself with a twig, or like a stick, and you're like, what is going on? Because it doesn't make any contextual sense, because there's this whole thing that they're like, oh yeah, she's pregnant, but like it's just the girls like gossiping because she's not fucking this dude anymore, and you're like, huh? And it doesn't help, because then she finally wanders back to the house, and she's like, I killed it, and you're like, so they're just trying to make you think she was pregnant, even though later in the movie they're like, oh no, I wasn't pregnant. But I'm like, then what did you
But that's one of those like, plot hole things again, where she comes in and she's acting like she's half possessed, half like lost her mind completely. And then it goes away and is never talked about again, ever. So it made zero sense why it happened or how it happened, and then they never allude to it ever again, because
Yes. And this is like, so this happened, and while she was out, they had or before she went out, I guess, they had these two guys come over to fix their Wi-Fi. And you're like, you need two people to fix your Wi-Fi? That's kind of odd. And then like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, like 5 minutes later in the movie, like they're all out on the deck drinking, and one of the guys is like fixing the window or something like that. And you're like,
it was like a wire outside or something.
I don't know. And I'm like, huh? But like, this doesn't make any sense. The only reason I bring it up is because of why the characters are important later on. But while this redhead was out,
it's only this thin of why he's actually important. It's a nothing scene that literally is nothing. It was nothing. It was so throwaway,
and it doesn't make any sense, because we sit here, and when the redhead comes back, the one who's getting married, her therapist is all of a sudden there, and the maid of honor had called the therapist, which, remember, this is like happening on like I don't even know how to speak English, and this therapist drives to their place for some reason, which obviously doesn't make any fucking sense, and she's sitting there, and she's like, she was semi-normal at the beginning of the movie, but at this point she's like, what is happening here? And she starts like down talking the fiance, which is fine, but it's like, this is so weird that it's,
at this point you're literally just along for the ride, because like you can tell the writer had no idea where anything was kind of going. All he knew wanted to be dick characters, people getting killed, good-looking girls, The end. That's it.
Yep. It was like, oh, we need to show some titties, but like no one gets like none of the main characters get naked. Like so, none of the people that we're talking about that are probably friends in real life, the hot girls, none of them get naked. It's just the two strippers that show up later on.
And it's so awkward too. Like who does that in a bathtub? And anyway.
Yeah. Well, dude. Yeah, they're like, hey, the one redhead is like, oh, I bought some lap dances for you, dude, to one of the guys. Go into the bathroom. The bathroom? What the? I bought you private time with them? When did you buy them private time? We've been watching you the whole time. What the fuck are you talking about? And this is all after, like, the girl comes back.
Go watch them and be then really she, like, weird in the shower. Like, they're like...
Yeah. They're like, he... Oh yeah. That's
when she gets stabbed and grabs her own boob.
Yeah,
she didn't even get stabbed in the boob, and she grabs her boob when she gets stabbed. It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, she gets stabbed, and they're focused in on her tits and stomach. Like that's all they're not showing her head.
That's super
close.
It's just
her tits and stomach. Yeah, and like you're like, and they have these really. They look like they threw salami on her stomach as a wound. That was. It was like, oh, we don't have any practical effects. Hey, can you get the salami out of the refrigerator?
We gotta talk about a scene back from that when the main character comes back with all her cuts and gets into the shower and is just wiping them off, and there's no cuts whatsoever.
Yep. Well, because you know that she was sitting there fucking herself with the fucking random stick she picked up, and you're like, huh? So she had. It looks like she was all cut up, but no, she wasn't cut up. She had been like, you literally they show her like, they don't show it going into her, right? But they show her putting the stick into her crotch region. You're like, what the fuck? And it's not a good what the fuck. It's a, who thought this was a good idea? Yeah. Who this is not a good idea. Bad idea. Bad idea. Bad.
That's how I felt about this whole movie, man. Just bad. Don't
bad.
Who did?
No.
Who told you that was a good idea? Because it wasn't. I'm sorry to say.
This was bad for you. This was bad for us. This was bad for everyone involved. You should feel bad.
It has a
you shouldn't
4 out of 10 on IMDb, and I don't know how it got that high.
I assume that the 4 are the people from this movie
67
giving it
so
thumbs
it could
up.
Be padded by some. Yeah, there's 8 votes that gave it a 10, so that's everyone that was in the movie. And
yeah. I mean, if you gave this movie a 10, you worked on this movie because that's the only reasonable explanation for how we're getting here. So the after this girl gets out of the shower, she had found this note earlier that her boyfriend found that was like a love letter to her saying that they loved her. And when she comes back, all of a sudden this her other bachelorette lady girl comes in and she's like, hey, I want to tell you I wrote this letter. And then it turns into softcore porno, and these two girls are just like making out like the beginning of a lesbian porn. And you're like, huh? Because it's like, you know, when porn always has this weird like intro, like where it's like, hey, it's the pizza guy. And then she's like, oh, I forgot my money. How about I pay you some other way? And then they just like the music starts and they're like, and that's basically what this turned into without like the pizza. But it was just like that. Nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden these two women are just making out and decide they're going to run off together.
Sorry, but I had to log in and rate this movie on IMDb. I'd never do
please
it,
do, please.
But I had to do it. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's okay. That's okay with me. So yeah, they say they're gonna run away off together when they're done. I think they fucked, but they don't show anything because none of the actresses, like the main actresses, get naked or anything. And the little like maid of honor is outside the door, like hitting the door the whole time. What are you two doing? When are you gonna come out? What are you two doing? When you come and
okay, the only thing I can put this up against are other films that I've seen submitted to 48-hour film challenges that I have been a part of, and that's people just starting out, and you can't fault them because they're doing it for the first time. They're there to see their stuff on a big screen, and like it's awesome, and I like applaud those people for doing it. This is a real thing with that bad of quality and attention to detail and everything. It's unforgivable. It is unforgivable.
Yep. The acting is only, I said it, Trolls 2 is the only thing I compare the acting in this movie to.
But Trolls 2 even had a budget and stuff. But that's because they hired, like, have you watched the documentary about Trolls 2? Because it became this, like...
No, the worst movie ever made.
Yeah, that's really good, man. But it sheds a light on why this happened, because they hired someone where the language barrier was there and he had no idea what the hell he was doing. So it was just... But that's why it became this, like, cult classic, because it was just so bizarre. You could tell the person behind it had zero idea what they were doing, but it turned out to be this funny accident, like
it's like The Room.
Like The Room.
Yeah, it's like The Room.
This is not
those movies
going to be a cult classic.
Oh, dude, even The Fanatic, man. Like The Fanatic is another one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But is
love and the craft. Like you could see that Fred Durst was like, I got this amazing idea, and he went all in on it. And if he had someone just revise it a little bit and be like, yo, dude, you kind of went full crazy in these moments, just don't do that. Or even John Travolta.
John Travolta's acting was one of the biggest problems in that movie.
I'm like, John, you've done this forever. Like, you should know when you're going too far in the wrong direction. So I don't know.
Dude, I can watch. I will. I'm telling you now. I will watch The Room again. I will watch The Fanatic again. I will watch Trolls 2 again, because they're all so terrible. But it's something that I could laugh at. I didn't even laugh at this movie.
There's a few times I laughed.
You're just sitting there. It wasn't. There were a couple laughs, but I don't know. I don't think any of them were on purpose.
But I think it's because it's wrapped in a misogynistic. And the reason why the killers are killing that's what makes it so unforgivable, because it has zero taste, zero class, and it's a zero.
It's the whole thing where the whole movie seems to be mocking mental illness. Maybe not mocking mental illness, but I don't even know if is mocking the right word. Like
it's just not sympathetic whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, so let's get to this. So also this movie has 8 kills in it, something like that. And you have the 2 kills in it that we talked about already are like half an hour in. This movie doesn't, then it goes about 40 minutes before anyone dies again. It's a real long drought for something that's as short of a movie.
But what was with the cutting when that guy got beat up with the like crowbar? It was like, like so weird. Yeah. I was like, what? Wait, what just happened?
Yeah. It was a really horribly done shot. That might have been the worst shot in the movie. Like from a movie making shot, you're like, so the one guy was like, he gets jumped, and you later figure out it was. We're gonna spoil this now because nobody gives a fuck. It was the therapist.
That was like that was supposed to be like a gasping moment in the movie, and I was like, okay, like I don't even give a shit.
Yeah, and then you figure out that the 2 guys in the suits. Oh my God, it was the 2 people you saw at the therapist's office earlier, and they're also the same guys who were fixing the Wi-Fi. So this is the question I have with that. So the Wi-Fi, so the therapist, what I don't get here, the reasoning, or the thinking is what I'm thinking, sent her sons to do all this shit, right? But how did she know, like, there's no connection of how she planned on going to this thing. You know what I mean? Like, 1, how did she know where this fucking party was? 2, like, I mean, unless the girl told her, but like, she wouldn't give her the exact fucking address. Like, none of it makes sense. And let's talk about the stripper because at least he's kind of funny.
He was my favorite part for sure. Like,
yeah, there's the sassy, the like they're ordering a stripper who's supposed to be a cop, who's supposed to come as a cop, and they call this this like sassy black girl like runs this like stripper agency. It seems
okay,
like
if that scene was just filmed a little bit higher, had one more camera and one light, it would have been. I would have been like, man, they did something right. But it was, again, that weird angle that he was just like, yeah, this is good enough, whatever. Like, go. This is the only take and the only shot I'm getting.
Dude, you're perfectly right, because that scene, if YouTube channels would have shot that scene better. Mm-hmm. Like, because it wasn't anything complicated. It was two people in a room. And it was like shot like on the ground. It almost seems like someone was on the ground, like you're talking about, or they were holding the camera in their hand while like just standing there. You know,
I think what's his name? Fincher got asked a question. There actually a whole bunch of people got asked the same question at the Oscars, and I loved his answer because they're like, "What's your favorite way to?" Film a scene or something, and he said there's unlimited amount of ways to film a scene, but really there's only two: the right way and the wrong way. That is such a profound way to think about it, because you can get coverage of a scene. It all comes down to at the end of the day, dialogue scenes are talking heads, and it's a over the shoulder and a main, to me at least, for normal coverage. But if you want to be creative, you go Kubrick and go underneath. Actually, there was one redeeming shot in this movie when they went underneath the deck and showed them walk up to the door. I was like, that is a cool shot. They have one cool shot in this movie, and that was it, and it was gone. And I was like, no, do more stuff like that. Fuck.
Yeah. It just seems like they were trying to replicate the mid 80s slash. I don't even say the mid 80s. It was like the early 80s slashers.
100%. That's what they were going for, but I don't.
Yeah. Dude, it's with the acting, with the misogynistic dialogue. Yeah. So you figure out at this point that the therapist, the two killers are her two sons, which you had met earlier in like. But the therapist was like giving therapy to the one guy like before the main character came in, and it's like how she's talking to him isn't like it's her son, because it's this like weird, like, especially when it's the son and the two, it's just like mental. It's like they were trying to do a handicapped person or something, like someone that's like on the scale or something. I don't know what they were trying to do, but it's just so poorly executed that it's just kind of offensive to people with actual mental illness. Mm-hmm. And they basically, neither one of these guys could ever get no one could ever, women wouldn't deal anything with these guys, and that's why they're killing everyone. And it's just like, but that's a real bad reason, guys. That's like a bad reason why you're doing something. That's a bad reason for like.
That's what the whole movie's hinging on. Are you when that came out? I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? No, obviously you're not. But like, come on, like this is the worst.
That's not even the most. So this all goes through, and they all ended up like everyone gets murdered, killed, including the girl that the other girl was going to run off with. And then everyone dies except for her, the main character, the bride, and the fiance. And it's like, what if anyone deserved to have his?
What was the fucking end? It didn't make any fucking sense.
That's what I want to get to. So I want to get to that. So this all happens, and then they cut to this girl, the main character, having a nightmare, and the girl that she was going to run off with is like bleeding out the eyes and like, you did this to me. And I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. And they cut to her waking up in bed with the douchebag. And this is where I I actually got angry because
same.
I thought they were going to pull the it was all a dream.
Yeah, same.
And which would have pissed me off. But this actually made it worse because then the movie had the fucking balls, and that's saying a lot for this fucking piece of shit movie, to say that no, these two were together after everything had happened, and this guy then starts being misogynistic again about everything and like, oh, she thought she could take you away from me. But and I'm like, that
especially okay, so I have a theory. No one has pictures on IMDb, but I think that guy potentially wrote this movie and maybe directed it. I don't know. And it might just be who he is. I don't know. That's just a speculation. I have no idea, because there's no way in anyone's right mind they would write a movie this terrible and then end it that way so terribly, with him still living right after. That's what the whole audience wants to see, is that guy go, and they cut right as she's about to kill him to that bullshit. That this is just my speculation on why. And if that is it, he wrote himself probably as himself. And that's how he sees the world. So, but I don't know this for a fact.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I'm sitting there thinking, like, when a movie ends like this, like, I haven't seen the original. I mean, I've talked about it in here before, but Jeepers Creepers is a movie that only sticks out to me in my mind these days because the ending made me so angry.
I don't remember the ending. It's been so long. I just remember always loving Justin Long and horror movies. Yeah. And it was a creepy monster. I love monster movies. They got a lot right. The scene with the buses and stuff. They did a lot of good for horror, but when it's attached to someone that disgusting, fuck off, get away from me. It's being rebooted with a clean cast and everybody, like, good, because I think it's a good monster, and I want to always see more monster movies. But
the ending of that movie just sticks out to me as, because I don't even remember what happened. I think I remember Justin Long having a hole in his head and then playing that stupid song, and I think is what happens toward the end, and it made me angry. And this movie's ending, I was visibly angry at it was.
That's why I texted you on Discord right after. Fuck this movie. Like, I felt just like exhausted from just
from a 1 hour 18-minute movie. This was one of the most difficult watches I've ever had, and it was an hour and 18 minutes just because of the terrible the acting, the line, like you were talking about. There are lines throughout this where they just fucking stumbled through their lines, and like the little maid of honor would literally all of her lines would say cute, 3/4 of it,
but she did not act like she acted with her hands like this the entire time, like blah blah blah, like I don't. No, please.
I think that the best actor / actress in this movie was probably the friend who was like the one who fell in love with her.
Yes, she was.
The main character was, for this movie, was okay. Like, she did, like, most of her stuff was okay. You could tell, like, you talk about her coming back and like being like crazy and then like normal the rest of the time is just like insanity. The kills, like the strippers getting killed in the bathroom, was just the worst kills I think.
There was probably like a major time constraint on this movie, and they're just like, we're just gonna get what we get to get everything, and that's how it felt.
Yeah, it literally felt that the last act, or the last act, which is like when the guy's coming in the house, was all shot in like one take. It literally feels like that, and not in a good way. It feels like they just went, we got to shoot this right now. We got one go. Kind of like, the one cut of the dead we talked about. Like, it's where that was like a good one cut. This feels like a bad one cut.
Man, I love that movie. We go from 100% movie, and like it's now like I haven't seen very many Japanese movies, and like that movie is like, how much more Japanese movies can I see now? Because I need to see more, love for filmmaking like that.
Yep.
And this is like, it's almost like a curiosity for filmmaking, but with zero homework.
Yeah, it doesn't show respect for it.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't feel like these people had watched, like, I feel like I know you could make a better movie for sure.
Dude,
like,
after
this,
I went to my YouTube channel to make sure that my shit was better, just so I could feel all right about shitting. Like, go back and watch any of my short films. I've been making them for years. Every single one is 10 times better than this fucking piece of shit. And I did it with like just whatever I had lying around, all made within 48 hours. I made every single one of my short films in 48 hours for a 48-hour challenge. And that's time constraint like crazy. We had no budgets, obviously. Only my friends, like this movie looks like as well. And just... I love filmmaking. I've loved it my whole life. So I have that in the back of my head.
Being cheap doesn't mean anything, man. I go back to us doing Thanksgiving last year, and Thanksgiving had no money. Like, I think they said $3,000. That movie was as low budget as shit as it was.
But it was
super campy,
self-awareness.
And self-aware, yeah.
This movie was not self-aware whatsoever. And that's its major downfall.
In just 2020, you can't have this fucking dialogue. We live in a Me Too culture where it's like, where people are like, the shit that used to happen with women is like getting called out. And this movie just is just shitty to women, man. And it's just like...
It's a spit on your hand, slap in the face. Like the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this guy is the fiance that she woke up in the bed with again is like spitting at people because he thinks he's better than them. The cable guys who, I mean, they ended up being the killers, but like, you don't treat people like that, man. And it's just like, you're like spitting at people while dressed up like the angry video game nerd. I mean, come on. It's just like, come on. And I just want it to be, I just want it to not be that bad. That's all I want. I want it to not be like...
Well, you know what? I said this. Like, I'm a glass half full type of guy now. So after I watched this movie and, like, Kissy was sitting beside me just, like, appalled at what we just watched and just, like, what the fuck? Like, she was visibly angry as well. But I was like, you know what? As a filmmaker, this is a good palate cleanser for me. Because if I'm watching nothing but the best and we can only... just like gush over how good the movie is, this being the complete opposite gives us something on the complete opposite end of the spectrum to be like, no, this wasn't as bad. Like, so now this is the bottom floor. We know the bottom floor of filmmaking, and that makes me happy knowing what not to strive for as well as what I want to strive for. You know, I like learn from other people's mistakes as well as your own. And this is a big mistake that I will never make. But it's also because I know it exists as well. So, like, if we can take anything from this, it's a literal, like, class on everything not to do in a movie. Wrapped up in a bow just for you. And there's boobs in it, so there you go.
Well, it's, man, why... I know not everybody loves the subject matter of what Quentin Tarantino does. Like, he gets a lot of shit for his, like... usage of the N-word.
He's a white guy.
Like,
does he forget that sometimes?
Yeah. But like the reason his movies are so like diverse and so well written is because that dude watches more movies than anyone you ever know. Like you and I have watched a whole lot of movies. Quentin Tarantino is like, oh yeah, that's funny. That's like a third of my catalog. Like that dude has watched so many movies. It's insane. And it just shows you like that's the kind of thing that like kind of give knowledge of your subject is what makes you like able to like produce content that is quality, because you're not, but you also have to be careful, right? You have to make sure you're not like ripping stuff off, because that could be a problem too.
He does homages to a whole bunch of stuff, and he chooses things that are old enough that it's not going to be like in the back of most people's minds. It's like he takes a lot of inspiration from Japanese films as well. Like Battle Royale was like one of his. I would love to put that on the list. I have not seen Battle Royale yet, and I've heard it's. I've never seen Battle Royale, man, and I definitely want to watch Battle Royale. So can we put that on the list, please? Yeah, dude. The biggest happening right now. So let's do that.
No, that's definitely on those. Dude, my wife even likes that movie because like it's funny. I showed her that movie right after we watched Hunger Games.
Oh, nice.
And it is funny to see like the compare and contrast with that movie and Hunger Games and what it does that made it like stand out. That movie's fantastic, and dude, we might have what we do next week because I was thinking about doing a couple other things. Cece from the Scream Queens wanted to either do Audition or that Fried Berry movie, but we've been doing Japanese movies every other week, and I didn't know what Japanese movie to do this week, and so I was thinking about doing Fried Berry, but man, I think we have to do Battle Royale next week.
Fucking right. Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited because that's
Battle Royale.
That's like my list of foreign movies or just horror movies in general is a long one that I want to see, and those like weird ones like Old Boy's still on that list too, right? Like still haven't seen Old Boy.
We watched Old Boy.
Oh, wait,
we did Old Boy, you idiot.
No, I mean the new one. I still want to see the remake.
Yeah.
Even though everyone tells me not to watch it, I still want to see that. This is how. But yeah, Battle Royale has been on my list for a fucking long time.
Dude, yeah, it is one of those. It's a pretty it's a pretty awesome movie. It gets a little weird at the end, but it's a Japanese movie, so that doesn't like surprise me at all. So, yeah, guys, don't watch Slashlorette Party.
Do yourself a favor, and if anyone from the movie did listen to this, hey man, I'm sorry that I ripped your movie a new asshole, but it made me feel like you shat on my face, so I'm sorry.
You shat on our souls. You shat directly on our souls, and that's not cool, man.
I read this tweet from someone that's like, if a movie is really bad, I tend to just not review it whatsoever because I've said this several times on the show. I have an appreciation for everyone involved in a movie and coming out of their way, but that's like. If it's an actual movie, this didn't even feel like an actual movie to me. So it
felt like friends who were like, oh, we're gonna shoot a movie, slasher movie.
Talk about a backyard flick, like but I've seen really good backyard flicks, and I can't even put this at the level of a backyard flick. This is like, don't watch it, dude.
Yeah. I'm glad that they tried, man. I'm glad that they again, I understand too, man, but it's just like this movie is just so hard to say anything positive about. And that sucks because I don't want to sit here and shit. I mean,
go watch Versus instead. If you were thinking about watching something and it's out of anything and Slashlorette, literally pick anything else, but watch Versus, man.
Yeah. Yep. That's, I mean, dude, I like even talking about this movie for the hour and 8 minutes we're at now. I'm just like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
This episode is better than the movie. So it's just as long as the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, dude, it's funny. It's funny because like the hardest either one of us had really been on anything was probably you and Willy's Wonderland when that came out, and you still said lots of good things about that movie, right? And you even liked it. It just
things. Yeah, it had a lot of redeemable things, but it felt like I said it several times in the review. It had the right ingredients. And it just didn't put them in the right order for me. Like, you could have made a really delicious cake or pie or whatever the ingredients you had in front of you. And then it just, all the ingredients were there. And so, like, individually in, like, little parts, the ingredients, I got good tastes of the ingredients. But then as a whole, it was like, man, what the hell?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like, I liked it better than you, but it reminded me like when studios come in and like edit out movies at the end, like it was like a little off because of that, but still was fun. This movie doesn't have that. This movie doesn't have any redeeming qualities, which is it's man. It
Except
feels bad.
everyone is really
bad,
pretty, so that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the cast is all the women. The guys are all just average Joes. Let's be honest, none of the guys are good-looking dudes.
No, but
not one of them is better looking than
when you have the cast
Josh
of
Rye.
Suicide Girls, that's what caught my attention. So the poster is the best part of the movie.
Yeah,
print the poster and don't watch the movie.
The poster's dope, man. The poster's real good. I would hang this poster on my wall if I didn't know what this movie was. That's how cool this poster is. And then I would watch it, and then I would burn my house down to get rid of the poster. That's how bad this movie is.
Oh no, there's a spider in my house. Gotta move.
Gotta move. Oh no, there's a Slashlorette Party poster on my wall. Gotta move because it's
Can't touch that.
Okay. Yes. So let's do Battle Royale. It's from 2000, I think it's from
2001. I'm guessing.
It's 2000. Yep.
Okay.
Also has another pretty notorious Japanese actor in it, and Takashi Kitano, I think is his name, who has done a lot of American stuff too. But the first time I ever saw him was he did the. There's a long-running series of movies in Japan called Blind Swordsman Zatoichi. I think is how you say it. And he was in that, but he was in the Ghost in the Shell American movie with Scarlett Johansson. So this guy is pretty fucking iconic and is been acting for a very long time. And he plays the teacher in Battle Royale. So yeah, it is.
I've heard so many awesome things about it. It's like one of those movies that you have to see, and I've put it on my list back. Yeah. Well, and you walk past it in the store too, and then Quentin Tarantino put his name on it. It's now presented by Quentin Tarantino because it's one of his favorite movies, which that is really cool. And I like that when they have nothing to do with the movie other than they like it, so now they present it, right? Or Eli Roth when he was big name in horror, presented by, then James Wan does that all the time now too. And
even what Wu-Tang was doing for a while, right? Yeah. Wu-Tang Clan was putting out a bunch of martial arts flicks from China. Oh, yeah. Wu-Tang presents and doing that stuff because they're really into martial arts movies, and it's that's fucking dope. It's sharing what you enjoy with others, and when you have that audience, audience, it's a cool thing because way more people are seeing it. And I saw this movie so long ago. I have another probably not completely legal DVD copy of this movie that I got off of the internet back in the early 2000s. And this movie, I recently rewatched it in the last year or so, and this movie holds up really well and is dope as fuck. So okay, Josh, thank you for traumatizing me. I had nightmares last 2 nights because of this.
I'm making up for it by picking Battle Royale next week, okay? So I picked the shittiest. No. Now I'm picking something good.
It's okay. Well, I'll let you live this time. No, dude, this movie is so good. I think one of the characters ends up being the girl from. I'm not completely sure. Is the girl from Kill Bill, the one that she fights at the end of the first one?
There's a Battle Royale 2.
The one with. Yeah, they I don't know how good the other ones are, but.
Oh, it got a 4.7 out of 10 on IMDb. Probably not the greatest.
Japan has really weird sequel things just like America does. So, okay, next week, Battle Royale.
Woo!
So it'll be a good time. Okay, Josh, thank you for being awesome.
Hey,
and
you too,
I love your face.
You too, man. Believe me.
You too, Josh. You too.
Appreciate you, buddy.
I appreciate you, buddy. Okay, well. Everybody, thank you for listening. And go give us a 5-star review.
And as they say in Psycho Gorman, man. Bye.
No, not yet. But we got more things. We're doing that in a little bit. We are doing. Follow us on Twitter, Murder Moose Pod on Twitter. We have our website, murdermoose.com. We have our Discord, discord.me/murdermoose. and all that stuff. So come join all our stuff. Talk to us. We have people that are in the thing that have been guests, like Totally Drunks, hanging out in there talking about movies. So come talk about horror movies. Suggest things if you have things that you would like us to talk about, and just have a good time.
We should do this at the top of the show too, just to like let people know, like, hey, welcome to the show. We have these places where you can chat with us.
Yeah.
Because we want you to chat with us.
Let's do that next week.
Like the Discord is a really good place for the conversations in between. I love to know what other people are watching and suggestions for what we should watch as well. Like get those.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool. Because I totally forgot about Benny until he came and was like, oh, I'm watching Benny right now. I was like, oh shit. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do that next week. We'll talk about that. So that will be on our next week here. We're going to even do it on this next week. Talk about Discord at top of show. Okay, cool. Okay, everybody. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week. And bye.